So let's talk about what are the criteria for a reward or compensation-centric OKR solution. Now, I'm going to give you sort of 9 things to consider. And these aren't rules. This is just what we've learned over many, many implementations. In no particular order. 1, make sure that you're rewarding people for strategically linked performance. So to the overall performance of the organization, but more importantly, for strategic priorities like entering new markets or gaining new customers, as opposed to transactional. 2nd, combine both monetary and non-monetary rewards. So non-monetary are recognition, better cubicles, that kind of thing. And obviously monetary, you understand. Make sure as you build this out that you're also rewarding people for measurable competencies, not just competencies because that's pretty nebulous, but measurable. How do I know that person has that competency either by activity or behavior? You need to obviously also match your incentives to culture. So the best example here is often sales teams are compensated, commissioned for quarter end sales, but the strategy and the culture is about being the trusted advisor. Well, when you come rolling along towards the end of the quarter, the salespeople are going to be chasing that quota and the compensation that goes with it, not the culture and the mindset of being trusted advisor. They're going to sell anything to anyone to make their numbers. We need to make sure that the team incentives are clear and simple because we're trying to encourage people to work as a team. We need to make sure that it's not a complicated thing. They can understand if it's working. Think of a sport, like how many goals did we get? How many goals did the bad guys get on us? It's easy to sort out. A lot of this is about communication. People tend to think with their black hats on that whatever you're doing, the compensation model is trying to catch them doing the wrong thing. So just make sure you over communicate and people understand the integrity of what you're trying to do. Follow what I call the fair game rules, which I've talked about in previous videos. Make sure that your key results are auditable, so they're not just based on the upline or downline's guess. And then finally, remember, from that Daniel Pink work that the greatest incentive for people is actually the work itself. Make sure that they're doing work that is linked to performance and that's important and help them see that. And that becomes the biggest incentive of all. Okay, let's roll up our sleeves and talk about the actual frameworks and the mathematics. So let's assume that we've got both a fixed component of our pay and a variable component. And the variable component is a mix of individual, in this example, 25%, the team, in this example, 37%, department, and company. So there's a mix here, and the mix is based on what I'm trying to incent people to do. So in this case, I want, strong team playing, followed up by an equal mix of being individual and loyal to the department, and then finally the overall company. So how does that work in the OKR world? So this is the example from Southwest Airlines, the fictitious example where, for example, the grooming team and the overall objective is reducing ground time. So the KRs they have, in this case, how many people are participating in actually grooming the plane and how much time they're doing. And so the target is, the actual current is 95 hours and the target is 100 hours, which works out to 95%. And of their reward structure, that's 20% weighted. At 10% is the amount of time reductions that they've identified. And so we want people to find and get back 60 minutes of turnaround time. We've so far identified 32 minutes. That works out to a 53% achievement. Next, at 60% is the actual time that we reduced. And so our target is to reduce 15 minutes this quarter. We've actually reduced 18 minutes, so we're over target. And then the number of locations that we've implemented these improvements, we've got 2 out of 3 locations at 67%. So these are just the KRs. They're actual and target performance and the calculated result, but most importantly, the weighting for this team. So not all KRs are equally important, and that's what the mix looks like. And for them, the clear importance is to actually reduce time. So how do I calculate the compensation? So again, the calculation is pretty straightforward for the team. I have a 20% weighted objective that I achieved 97% or 95% at, plus a 10% objective that I achieved 53%, and so forth. So now I get the overall achievement of 103% of target. So that's my team component. So if I go back and let's say we've got a total budget of $10,000 variable pay available, and I take a look at my compensation model, which has a component of team, individual, department, company. The team, as we saw, is at 103%. Using the same calculations, we've got 98% my individual score, 89% the department, 100% for the company. And if we go back to the weighting of my compensation model, I then add that weighting in. So 37% for the team component, 25% for the individual component, and so forth. And then the mathematics is straightforward. So I have a net payout here of 98.10 based on that formula. So all we've done is we've linked the OKRs to the compensation system framework. Mathematics, pretty straightforward. So outlining just a few common mistakes we've seen. One is including objectives or key results for which the individual has no control or influence, because that is not actually a rewarding structure. Secondly, having too many key results, so making it just too complicated. Measuring results, not outcomes. Now, we all know as good OKR practitioners, OKRs are about outcomes, not results, so that should not be a challenge for us. We need to make sure that we encourage that operating beyond the silo. So make sure that your KRs go beyond your one function or beyond your one region or beyond servicing one customer, whatever those dimensionalities might be in your organization, to make sure that we're working cross-functionally or cross-issue-wise. Often we get confused and measure what's easy, not what matters. And so again, with OKRs, hopefully the OKR structure makes sure that we're measuring what matters. Often we make the formulas too complicated, so it goes beyond what people can understand and therefore is no longer motivational. If I've got to spend time trying to optimize the compensation model, I'm not going to win. And then finally, a mistake that many people make, many organizations, is assuming that individuals don't want to be measured. We all want to be measured. We want that assurance that we're contributing to the organization and that constant feedback. It's not the measurement side that's evil. It's how we use the measures that gets misconstrued. So using, what's that expression? The carrot and whip are meant for the ass in the middle. Don't treat people like a donkey. Use these as carrots, as incentives. Do not use them as whips. Otherwise, your structure will fall apart.